Are we live yet? Oh,
Madam Chair, you are live.
okay. All right. Thanks. Hi, good evening, everybody. This is Bevan Bucheister. Welcome to the Environmental Commission meeting. This is January 24th. And I'm calling the meeting to order at, let's see, 7:02. We have some administrative business tonight, and then we're going to talk about Parkside Preserve. And we have Alderman Savage here to discuss that, and also Jackie Gild, the Deputy City Manager for Resilience and Sustainability. I think we're having a report out from our Justice, Equity, and Diversity and Inclusion lead, Randy Rowell, and then discussion on AEC priorities. So first order of administrative business, actually for administrative business, we're also having an election tonight as well for the chair and vice chair. So for our first order of business, I'd like to approve the November 2021 minutes. So we need a motion to approve those minutes. And actually, I wanted to ask you all if you had any corrections to the minutes first.
No corrections.
Just my last name needs to be corrected to E-O-N instead of E-N.
Okay.
Sorry, Jeremy, that's my fault. I use all my correct spelling on Bevan's last name, and then I've got nothing left for the rest of you.
Right. So, Anne, are you taking the minutes tonight too? Or who's taking the minutes?
I believe Racine is taking minutes. Is that right?
Oh, okay.
But I'm happy to make that correction. I'm sorry, Jeremy.
I'm sorry. It took me a moment to get to my microphone. I am taking minutes.
Oh, okay. All right, great. Thanks. All right, any other corrections to the November 2021 minutes? And if not, do we have a motion to approve them?
I move that we approve the November 2021 minutes.
Okay, and that was Jeremy. And okay, Allison seconded. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, minutes are approved unanimously. Our next order of business is the vote for chair and vice chair. So we do need a nomination from the floor. And I did talk to several members, or 2 members stepped forward to volunteer their services to the commission. Thank you so much. Randy Rowell had agreed to be chair this coming year, and Allison Colton agreed to be vice chair. So we need nomination from the floor. I'm not sure if I can do it, but.
I nominate Randy for chair and Allison for vice chair.
Okay, thanks.
And
I
second.
All right, and I'll call the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Aye. Thanks, Randy. Thanks, Allison.
All right, thank you so much, Randy and Allison, stepping forward.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. I told Bevan she's going to have to hold my hand for a couple of months, about a month or 2.
Right. I'm definitely happy to do that. So, yeah, so with that done, I would like to hand it over to our new chair to run the rest of the meeting. But I did want to note that we do have, we'll have 3 vacancies as of 2022. So after this meeting, I'm stepping down because I've been on the commission for 8 years. So I think that's long enough. And I just wanted to ask you all to make sure to, hit up your contacts and see if you can recruit some really good members for the commission.
Sorry, is that 3 total vacancies or 3 new ones?
Total vacancies. Total. Well, that would include me as of the February meeting. Yeah.
Because we still had a current vacancy, didn't we?
Right. We had 2 vacancies, and then I'll be the 3rd. Right, and I do have some names, Jackie, to send to you. I've got to connect with them on Facebook. Some people mentioned to me that they would like to be on the commission, so.
Okay, we'll send them to Hillary then.
What?
Bevan, make sure you send them to Hillary as well and just copy me on it.
Okay.
And Bevan, I know everyone appreciates everything you've done so much, but You are really been an incredible leader for this group and an incredible member of this commission. And I know we have not heard the last from Bevan Buchheister, and I certainly hope not.
Right.
We keep the
Yeah,
city on its toes.
You're here.
Thank you, Bevan. Thanks a
you,
lot. Yeah.
Yeah. And one day we'll be able to celebrate you in person, Bevan.
Yeah, right.
Who knew when that will be?
Dropped off during COVID too.
And I really can't believe it's been 8 years.
Yeah, yeah. It kind of flew by, but happy to pass the baton to Randy and Allison and the rest of you all too. So with that, let me hand it over to Randy to run the rest of the meeting.
Right, all right. Greetings, everyone. Thank you. And I just want to say also, Bevan, you know, you've been very instrumental in kind of helping me some of my visionary thoughts and stuff. So, you know, I'm very appreciative of that, serving and directing me to different resources, and opportunities, and info, and data, and all kind of great things. So I'm sure your train does not stop today. So I can look forward to continue on the charge. Yeah. Because lions, even though when they get old, they still have teeth.
Right. And connections. Right.
That's right. So I will just be kind of stepping and putting on my moderator hat, you know, and facilitator hat in these meetings, and just trying to stick to the agenda and kind of going as streamlined as I can. And, you know, hopefully things will just continue on the regularly scheduled program going into 2022. So it's an exciting year. Looking at the agenda, glad here. I know we have a few topics that we wanted to discuss and go over. So first on the items list, we've already done the call to order and the roll call and approved the minutes. So first up on the topics of things we want to discuss today are the Parkside Preserve. And it looks like we are a minute early on time, so that's great.
Randy, I did have one quick question
Mhm.
on the AEC vacancies. Are there any particular wards that we are trying to target to fill?
It's a great question. Bevan, do you know an answer for
You know,
that?
it's a spot from Ward 2. So we had several people who lived in Ward 2. So I don't think we need Ward 2. I think we needed maybe like 6 and 7. And I guess when I drop off Ward 1, we won't have anybody from Ward 1.
I'm in 7.
Oh, okay. Let's see. The annual report that I just sent has everybody's wards on it, so you can see who's missing. Let's see. Let me
Yeah.
find that. I'll find that.
Cool. That may be like a cool graphic to have with where everybody's from on the graph, like on a picture. All right. Okay. So, no, does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Actually, here I'm looking at it. We have, well, I'll be going off on Ward 1. So we have Ann's Ward 2, Bill's Ward 2, Paul what was Paul? Isn't
he also one with you?
He's also 2. Yeah.
Yes, he is.
Yeah. And so Jeremy's 5, Allison's 7, and Randy's 8. So we need Ward 6. We'll need 1 and 6. And 4. We don't have any 4.
Yeah. All right. Maybe there's something we could do to promote these vacancies, maybe like a flyer, like 1 page or something.
Right, and older people from those wards too. I mean, they usually know people that are active.
Yeah, how do you usually, I'm not sure how the promotion goes as far as outreach. Is that how it's usually done, kind of like internally?
I think we're always encouraged to bring names to the city, and then the city somehow identifies people. I guess some people get in touch. I'm not sure how the city has found some people. Yeah.
Okay.
But I think they're always happy to have us provide names and do some outreach too. But certainly talking to the aldermen and women from those wards is helpful.
Cool. All right, so moving right along, Parkside Preserve, I'm sure you all have seen the ongoing emails and the updates that we've been getting about the progress or challenges that have been going on with that site, and the most recent stop of work that took place. So I believe we have some people that want to share a few words on that, maybe Jackie or Mr. Rob. But it's an ongoing issue with the runoff, and the stop work order has led to, I guess, some discussions about long-term solutions. Just anybody want to kick it off there?
Sure. Well, let me let you know the latest that's going on there. So I decided that I took it upon myself to start sending out updates to the Annapolis Stand-Up Coalition, and I don't know that it reaches everybody because I continue, and it doesn't, because I continue to get requests and complaints from individual residents. So I'm trying to copy everybody on that as much as possible, but I send it out to the Annapolis Stand-Up Coalition. And I've been copying in the last week the members of this commission as well, and the city council, so that everyone's up to date. So we did issue recently, so there's been fines issued at this site last fall, last summer, December, and then in January of this year, and then in January 14th, there was a stop work order issued for a stockpile issue that had to be corrected. It was, but upon reinspection on Monday, Matt Waters, a stormwater engineer, found that the road conditions were such that he issued a stop work order to repair the road and the issues there. And I believe as today, that was still in effect. It's in effect until the work on the road is still done. And there were also planning and zoning instructed Reliable Contracting, the contractor on the property, to not work after hours, for noise violations and operating machinery. They were cited a couple weeks ago for operating machinery after dusk. Now, however, as of today, we found out that the sediment trap, which has been at issue with the discharges onto Quiet Waters Park, was filling up with water from stormwater from last week, and also it may be coming from groundwater, I'm not exactly sure, but that they would need to run the pump in that sediment trap for 24 hours going forward until they're done using the trap for the most part. And it's far away from the townhomes there, so it should not be making a lot of noise, but they had to apply for a special exemption to Department of Planning and Zoning. I just checked in to see if it was issued with our chief of code enforcement and to see if he had notified the coalition about it. And there also will have to be a generator associated with that sediment trap operated as well to keep it from freezing. So if people complain tonight that didn't get the message, it isn't authorized work that's going on there after hours. It's just pumps, not really work that's going on. Department of Public Works has been revising its standard operations procedures. Those are the procedures for enforcement, how often and how severe stop work orders and field notices and suspension of permits and that sort of thing happen in what order. I'm working with the director to tighten that up and move the enforcement actions up higher and they happen faster and more aggressively. And that should be ready within the week to start using that with the staff that are doing the inspections. Some of the items have already been moved up. I asked that they be 24-hour corrections instead of a few days to a week to do corrections, and that has been happening. And when that hasn't happened, stop work orders have been issued. So that is an improvement. And the director on the 14th discussed with the owner of the site that he found that there's been too many violations there. Obviously, the daily inspections that are required by their permit are not adequate. They should be finding more of the deficiencies and correcting them before the city inspectors get there. And therefore, an independent third party contractor, Environmental Quality Resources Services, they are now doing the inspections there, EQR. And EQR has been used by a number of nonprofits for their restoration work. They have a good reputation. So that should go far to ensure that there's no more discharges from the site, that the site is in good working order and meets all site requirements by city code and state requirements. It would be frankly stunning if they, using an independent third-party inspector, that they weren't in compliance with their site permit unless some catastrophic event occurred. Whether there was a failure of machinery or we had a storm or something like that. So our inspectors will still be inspecting. The daily inspections by EQR do not replace regular city inspections. We're hoping, though, that we can, with good compliance of the site, that our stormwater engineers and inspectors will not be tied up 2 to 4 days a week on that site. They have other sites they should be inspecting. They have other projects they should be implementing. And so we take this very seriously. It's not only the protection of the environment that we take seriously, but we also need our staff working on other projects. So we don't need one contractor taking up all of their time. Rob, do you want to talk about your resolution and activity? Oh, and also city staff will, and with Alderman Savage and Alderman Arnett, will be walking the site on Friday with Reliable. Okay, Rob.
Yeah, thank you. And just to back up a bit in case everybody's not aware. So this project is the one right off of Forest Drive. That is across from the harbor store, kind of back in the woods there, Parkside Preserve. And what sparked the resolution was just a series of instances, which I guess I've spoken at previous meetings. We've had at least 5 instances of offsite pollution. We have photos from 4 of them, and it just kept fighting this battle for the past 2 years. I thought at times we were making progress, but and then we kept having pollution incident after another pollution incident. And so it was quite clear that even the things we were trying to do internally were not quite enough. And when I looked at some of the practices from enforcement, is that it was pretty clear that the city was really hesitant to use stop work orders and to escalate enforcement. I looked at some of the data from the past years, and as I think you all know, and I did this work for about 6-7 years for the city, doing setup control enforcement, and I have a couple years of data from when I used to do that in 2013, I think it was 12 and 13. But in any case, back when I was doing that, I averaged probably about 12 to 24, if not more, stop work orders a year. And immediately after I left, it dropped down to 0 or 1 every year for the city. So they clearly were not using that tool. And I think we've kind of seen what happens after that is the contractors really lose all sense of urgency or focus on addressing these sediment control issues. And that's really, I think, what we've seen not just with this project site, but others throughout recent years. So, and in particular with this project, looking at the inspection records, you can see instances where the contractor did not even listen to some of the inspectors when the inspectors did notice violations. 2-3 times an inspector would just go out and say, oh, well, we keep saying, I want you to do X, Y, and Z, instead of actually saying, well, you didn't listen to me. And so I'm going to put a stop work order on the site. And, I used to do that. Even if it was a minor thing, I would still put a stop work order, because you've got to establish that authority of, you need to listen to me. I'm serious about what I'm telling you to do. And sometimes I'd lift the stop work order same day if they responded adequately. But in any case, it's not just that. There were other tools in the quiver that weren't quite being used. There were things which I mentioned in some of my articles about correction notices. They were given, staff was giving them about 5-7 days on some things to correct things when the law quite clearly says that it has to be maintained every single day. Like close the business every single day. But we were giving them much more time than they needed. And again, that's with the whole lack of urgency that's conveyed. And so it just kept perpetuating. And so in any case, that's what sparked this resolution, because it basically clarifies discretion and says how the council's, it clarifies the council's intent, legislative intent, and in terms of how we would like this discretion used. And so there's quite a bit in the resolution dealing with how to issue fuel correction notices, when to do stop work orders, when to look at the big hammer is the staff can actually suspend or revoke the entire grading permit. And that obviously is quite an extreme thing to do, but the thing I was trying to relay at the council meeting is this is pretty extreme for us in terms of the environment. This is really worst case scenario, very dangerous, destructive, I should say, pollution for our creeks. So in any case, that's what sparked all of this. And we had a record. And so before I get into that, I'll say I'm still, especially since we have more time now, I'm open to changing, tweaking, and adjusting any of the items in the resolution. I know Jack and I've already discussed about some changes, and I'm happy to make them. And but so thank you to all of you. We saw the testimony that was submitted by the commission. It's very helpful to receive that testimony, and and I do say it does really help. I can say with my other colleagues on the council, especially. So thank you for that. And we did receive record testimony. This is in my 4.5 years on the city council, and even before that, paying attention. I think this is the record for the number of people who've testified on an issue. It's the most I've ever seen. We've probably had more than 50 folks virtually, but also written. And we did also have the developer owner testify in writing. It submitted 2 pages in writing, as I mentioned at the meeting Monday night. But and one of the things that's disturbing about that is that it shows that the developer still shows no remorse, no acknowledgement of doing anything improper, not even indicating any kind of being upset at all about the pollution, just insulting the public, dismissing the public as spreading misinformation and lying, and it's just ridiculous. It clearly misunderstanding, not even understanding the basic environmental laws that they're supposed to comply with. So that brings me to some of the next steps. We tried to do a procedural vote to suspend the rules, to pass it on Monday night. We lost that by 1 vote. Everybody supported it except for Alderwoman Finlayson from Ward 4. Everybody else was on board. But in any case, the good side of that is it gives us time to further tweak it. The bad side is it gives a chance for the developer to put more pressure on people. So the final vote's going to be, I guess, in 3 weeks on February 14th. Unfortunately, it's on Valentine's Day. But one of the big questions, again, is going to be Amendment 1, which has to do with the council would be expressing its support for revocation or suspension of the permit. And I still think, in light of the developer's comments, kind of indicates the need to, I've talked a lot about establishing a tone. I think it shows the need to really set the tone with this developer that they're still not getting it. Hopefully a stop work order will prove fruitful. So we'll see how that goes over the next few weeks. What else? So overall, just to wrap it up, I guess overall, I'm glad with a lot of the improvements the staff has made. It's been really good to have Jackie in there working on these things. I know it's taken up way too much of your time, and I certainly feel a way about myself as well. It's taken up much more of our time than we want. we shouldn't have to deal with this, but we are. And so it's been good that Jackie and the director also have been incorporating a lot of the provisions in the resolution, even though it's not quite adopted yet. I'm confident that it will be adopted. So what else? So I think there are a couple, I'll just end on this. I think there are still a few things I have concerns about, which I want to address on with the Environmental Matters Committee, and we'll see if this commission would be interested in helping. And I know this commission's offered to do a roundtable of enforcement. I'm trying to figure out how we can work more with staff in the department to kind of turn around some of the approaches, because I still have big concerns about inspection quality, and particularly to make sure that everybody's on the same page as far as what's considered a violation, in terms of realizing that the code sets the floor, not the ceiling. And that was one thing I specifically asked MDE when MDE came out here a few months back, and they confirmed, yes, you're absolutely right. It's in the standards, in the code, that the floor is set. The expectation is that the contractor will always be trying to strive to prevent. We'll be doing more and more as things evolve to with the ultimate goal of reducing and preventing pollution. And that's the standard that we haven't really, I think, been able to convey adequately. So I think we'll have to have a continual conversation about how do we do that. And I think that's certainly something where the commission can have a role. So that's it for my summary. If anybody has any questions, I'm sure.
Before we jump into questions, I've left out one piece that's new and I did send out. We try to keep everything on site. Obviously, it's what the permit requirements require. So, but in case that there's another discharge off site, either through the contractor not performing the housekeeping measures or from a rain or snow event or some other event, we have worked with the county to put down some absorbent materials, logs, absorbent logs, matting, across some of the areas where there have been, ephemeral streams in the past and runoff, as sort of a last line of defense to the waters and lands of Quiet Waters Park and ultimately Harness Creek and the South River. So that work was being done yesterday. I believe it was completed today, and that was done with the permission of Anne Arundel County because they own the park. All right, any questions for me and Rob?
Allison, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to state everybody here should have received an email where I shared the letter that I drafted on behalf of the commission that was sent to the mayor, members of city council on Monday before their council meeting. And that was basically reiterating our concerns about these violations that we had originally written to council and Mayor Buckley's office about back in October of 2021, basically reiterating our concerns about the violations that have been described by Jackie and Alderman Savage. So I just wanted to put that on the record here too, that, we rewrote that letter and sent that in on Monday. Jackie, there was something that came up in the testimony on Monday that I'm wondering if you wouldn't mind responding to, and that is there was some implication that there is a familial or otherwise close relationship between EQR and Reliable, which may call into question if there's any sort of conflict of interest or the independence of this third party inspector for the project. And I wanted to know if you had any response to that concern that came up on Monday.
Yeah, I mean, David Gerald said, I told him about that. I said, I heard this rumor. I don't know if it's true. I did a quick search on their website. I didn't see a connection there, but I saw that Reliable was on their private client list, that Reliable had been a private client, but there's nonprofits on there, including Arundel Rivers Federation, that are also a client of EQR, who Jesse Iliff works with, the river keeper. So then, David went and did a search on Dun & Bradstreet. He did not find a definite connection between them. And even if they are a subsidiary, they would be operating independently. Now, before I heard this rumor, I was happy to hear that EQR was involved, because EQR has a very good reputation for the work that they do. And even if they are a subsidiary, they are operating independently, and it would do much damage to their reputation if that site is not in compliance and it continues to have discharges and other violations. That would not be in their interest. So I feel comfortable with EQR as the contractor there, and I don't think the city needs to take it any further. Other people may disagree, but it just would not be in their interest not to do thorough inspections and reports. And the whole idea is that they will make the notes to the contractor to take care of the deficiencies if they find them before the city gets there. It's the whole point of having a third party do their daily inspections.
Yeah, I generally agree with Jackie. I mean, EQR does have a good reputation. And I do believe they were bought by Reliable a few years back, but we're working on trying to confirm that. But regardless, I think it's better than not having anybody involved. And I think ideally, I'd like to try to get copies of those reports sent to city staff to help them. But in any case, hopefully it'll help. But that is
Rob, remember that that those reports are part of the inspection. So when the city inspectors go on there, they look at the daily reports that are issued.
Oh, they'll be okay. Yeah,
they're part of the inspection, so the city
daily
will be
inspections,
seeing them. Mm-hmm.
But that does bring up one other issue I kind of want to expand on, which was the idea of suspending their permit, because it allows the city to suspend it and then do a review. And I think that's one opportunity to have to draft new agreements with essentially the city to set expectations about how concerns from the public should be dealt with, but also any kind of third party inspections. But I think we'll see how it goes. They're certainly going to still have a lot of eyes on them over the next few weeks.
I have one quick follow-up, Randy, if that's okay.
Sure.
So Rob, you mentioned that the resolution is going to be considered by Environmental Matters on the 14th, or is it coming back to the full council on the 14th?
But yeah, not Environmental Matters, because we're not actually meeting until later in the month. But it's just going to come right back to the council since it's a resolution. We don't need any additional public hearing. It'll just come right back for second reader, final vote, and discussion of all the amendments.
Okay. And are there any of the amendments that you've been working with Jackie on that you would be comfortable talking with us about tonight, or are those still in process?
Some of them are in process. I have one dealing with the suspension revocation. Jack and I have spoken about a couple clarifying amendments just to make the language clearer, but also stronger. There's an amendment number 2 from Alderwoman Tierney, which would it's a friendly amendment, which would send it to put in the resolution that a copy of it's going to be sent to MDE for their records. And then there's a third amendment from the mayor that is also a friendly amendment, just saying that the city will work with MDE to increase the fine amounts, because our fines cap out at $1,000 and they're not really very sufficient.
Right.
So yeah, but beyond that, we're working on some others. I haven't actually had a chance to sit down and figure them out yet myself, but there are a couple we need to work on.
Yeah. And I'll just mention, for the letter that was sent on Monday night, it did not specifically reference the resolution because that was legislation that we had not specifically discussed at the commission. Although we had obviously discussed the issue at Parkside Preserve previously. So, I'll leave it up to Randy and the others. I know because you guys are going to meet to discuss that resolution before we meet again. So I don't know if there's any action that we need to take tonight on this if we wanted to support the resolution. I'll leave that open to others. I may step back on that, considering I, in my personal capacity, have already supported the resolution. But if others are interested in putting forward a motion on that on behalf of the commission tonight. I'm happy to help write something up.
Okay. I'll make a note of that. And also, what one thing that just thinking of something maybe we can think about between now and later, but maybe Mr. Rob and Jackie or anyone else can provide maybe what ways you think the commission can better foster or facilitate this type of engagement or development as it relates to the developers and the environmental impacts.
Well, I will say that Director Johnson is in the midst of revising the sediment and erosion control laws, and I know that's something Alderman Savage is interested in supporting legislation on. And so when we have a draft, that will definitely be something that this commission may want to weigh in on.
Good.
When there's draft legislation on provisions.
Yeah, because I'm working on legislation. I'm hoping ideally we can have one piece of legislation coming from myself that will incorporate any kind of recommendations coming from the department as well. I really hope we don't have two competing pieces of legislation.
Yeah. The idea behind it is that, you know, we don't think they're adequate. Obviously, you know, we don't think they're adequate as pertaining to the construction sites currently, but also they don't really account for building resilience and dealing with the climate change effects that are going on. You know, that's very outdated.
So is there a way that we could propose to, I don't like Mr. Rob, or I've heard someone say about raising the quality of the, you know, developers where they have to commit to certain types of, I know there's different types of LEED certifications and just different things you can do to increase the level of quality. I'm just thinking about some other cities.
So to that point, Randy, that's another initiative that's underway with planning and zoning, is to revise the building code, where the city is committed to introducing and passing by 2024 building performance standards that are incorporating, again, making them deal with the climate change impacts and being more energy efficient and resilient and sustainable, you know, putting in microgrids and solar panels and EV chargers and other LEED certified standards into our building code. So that is something that will be coming out of Department of Planning and Zoning. So that's another area where this group would be useful in commenting.
Yeah, I feel like that could be a, you know, good case that could be made, especially with the historic aspect and also the, you know, being a water city on the water.
And Mr. Chair, one other idea might be, if the commission was interested in maybe finding some experts from around the Bay watershed who might want to come speak about you know, this issue in terms of just sediment pollution. I think that would help possibly educate some parties about the impacts of that. But also if they have any other ideas for other jurisdictions may be doing. So I think maybe like putting together a forum or something like that, or just a speaker might be a good thing to do, and then invite staff and the council to. I mean, that could apply to a lot of different issues. I think it'd be good. Just something to keep in mind is you could always request a work session with the council and whatever, be it show video, have a panel, something to help educate us as well.
Good. Yeah, I'm thinking immediately just about the Chesapeake Bay program staffers, and I know Jeremy's familiar with that group. They also, and even Stack may even want to take a crack at, you know, I don't know, just providing some input. It could be something that could be put on their radar. What do you think, Jeremy?
Yeah, depending on what exactly we want to talk about, I'm sure among us we can track down at least one or two from the area.
Cool.
Yeah, or yourselves. I mean, just as an example, the transportation board put together a large report for the council on, you know, providing free transit and they came to a work session and gave a presentation about it and delivered their report. So just again, putting just as an idea for the commission.
Well, I would gladly, I would love to help coordinate something like that. If that's the case, where we could bring those parties together, some kind of some kind of session. So I'd be up for that, to kind of just to house as someone who can, pull the pieces together for that. So. And even facilitate if it ends up being virtual. Okay, so let's see, looking at time. Okay, go ahead, Bevan, and then Allison, do you have your hand up?
Yeah, I was just going to mention to you and Allison that that letter that was sent supporting Alderman Savage's resolution, we need to vote on that. We did approve those procedures to take positions in between commission meetings, because a lot of times things crop up, but what we said we were going to do is vote on it at the next commission meeting. So Allison, if you just wanted to run through the highlights of that letter and have the commission vote on it, then it would be, tied up with a bow and ready to go.
I disagree. I think, Bevan, we didn't take a position on Rob's bill. We instead simply reiterated what we had written in a previous letter. So I don't think we need to retroactively approve what Allison wrote, because it was just a resubmission of a previous thing. Although I think we could vote to write something more specific about the resolution.
Right. Okay. Good point.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the question I was putting forward, was there interest from members to again kind of revamp our letter to specifically reference the resolution, and that was to Annie's point. I think the question was, I think we could vote on that tonight, but I do think that would require a vote.
Okay. Well, so is this when I would be like, okay, y'all want to take a vote? This is when I do
So we just need to restate what we're voting on. So we would be voting on to support.
So this is a vote to revamp or add or edit or add to the letter to the Alderman Mr. Savage and the resolution. Do we have a vote? Is that what I say? Do we have anyone that wants to vote for that? Is that what I said?
Motion to vote on that. So I'll make a motion that we vote on. We vote to support Alderman Savage's resolution.
Gotcha.
And we need a
I'll
second.
second that motion.
It's R722.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a vote.
And then all in favor. So.
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Okay, so now it looks like we have that's not a unanimous vote, right? Okay, so we will move forward with that. If we could add that to our note taker to put a timeline on that and a deadline for when we would like to have things to Allison or from the group, I guess. Does that sound correct, Allison?
Yeah, it should be really easy. I just need to add in a couple sentences specifically referencing the resolution. So if you guys have thoughts that you'd like to add, please send them my way. But otherwise, it should be real quick to update the existing letter that we have.
All
and
right.
I guess I need to get that to council members and the mayor before February 14th. Is that right, Alderman Savage? Yeah, okay. And I know we want to wrap this up, but I was just wondering, Jackie, you mentioned that they're going to be walking the property on Friday. Is that something that AEC members could join if we're available?
I don't think that Reliable wants a big group there. They are doing this in response to a request from the City Environmental Committee. So I would say no at this point.
No,
It's being
you mean we
reserved
can't?
for
We can't stand outside with picket fences. Picket
You can
signs.
do whatever you want on the outside.
Hey, easy.
Yeah,
That's
it may be
the way.
something, yeah, might be something we do in the future, but for now, they said city council. And Jesse Iliff was going to join us, but he, I believe, walked the site today with Reliable because we couldn't make it.
Okay, thank you.
Understandable. Okay, moving right along, turn it over to Jackie and Resiliency and Sustainability Division Report. Did you have something to share, Jackie?
And thank you all. I need to sign
Okay.
out. Sorry.
Thanks, Rob.
Goodbye.
Rob.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Take care.
So there's a lot of things going on right now. Just for one, just in the budget, I know that they're putting in a request for a part-time person for me to handle a lot of the things that I can't handle. I can't do it all just with Racine. And also they're putting about $10,000 in for contract services for us. And what I would like to do with that is hire someone to do our community greenhouse gas study, because we have the greenhouse gas study draft for the city buildings, the update that Ann and Racine worked on together. Thank you so much, Ann. And I need to review that and see what additional work needs to be done there. But we'd be much more efficient to hire a company that does this regularly. And if anyone has recommendations of such a company, I'd be happy to look at them. And then when we put the RFP out, we'll make sure we notify those people. But that wouldn't happen until the FY23 budget goes into effect, which is July 1st. So we're going through the budget process right now. And then what I envision someone, if we hired a part-time person, would probably 20 hours a week, would be to helping me with the EV fleet conversion, with working with BG&E on our EV chargers and where they go, on the EV ferry proposal, bike mobility, we're considering electric bikes, electric scooters. So everything electric that we're trying to do in the city, everything energy efficiency, it would be great if I had one person to focus on those initiatives, because I stop and start so many things. And then things like Parkside Preserve happen, and that it becomes all consuming. And then we have other things going on. I mentioned the greenhouse gas initiatives, and so that we would be setting baselines and identifying activities to further reduce our emissions by 2035 to 50% in the city, by 2050 to be net zero, in line with what other local jurisdictions are doing nationwide and worldwide. And we actually, Racine and I were looking at the first study for just the government buildings, and it appears that we've already reduced between 2006 and now, since 2020, 20% of our greenhouse gas emissions in the city. And a large part that was due to, we had an audit done by Honeywell, I believe it was in 2017 or 2016, and implemented the recommendations, the energy efficiency recommendations between like 2016 and 2019. And so we were able to achieve some significant energy reductions, but we can do more. And part of the energy portfolio too, I would assign to someone who's continuing to incorporate energy efficiency into all of our projects. For example, Hillman Garage, where we're putting EV chargers, where we have a solar deck going in on the roof, and green roofs at the new public works facility, and EV charging units there. I'm still working to try to get some solar in the parking lot there. They told me they can't put solar on the roofs. I'm not buying it, but I think we could do it in the parking lot, especially in a carport area. There's ways you can incorporate solar. And also we're looking at microgrids, solar powered back microgrids. So we have a big portfolio of issues around energy efficiency. We've also been working on hiring a director for the Resilience Authority. We've made an offer, but we're negotiating with that person right now. So I can't tell you who it is. He hasn't formally accepted the offer. That will be very helpful to identifying infrastructure projects to make the city more resilient and finding innovative financing for those projects, including City Dock, which has a $35 million price tag on it right now. Let's see, other things we're working on, a whole slew of things where Racine's working on project for Earth Day. That's all to coincide with our Bird City certification. We need to have an activity, and we plan to do that on Earth Day. The plan is to engage a local school, and Racine has to determine whether that's elementary or middle school, to do artwork and do a little research on native birds and birds that migrate through the Annapolis area. And we have Pip Moyer locked down for the months of April and May to display the artwork and to do an event there on Earth Day with the mayor. So more to come on that. Racine's trying to get in front of that. It takes a long time to work with the county schools on projects. We have a meeting on Replant Annapolis this Friday to get that launched for the spring, and so that we can start recruiting a cadre of tree troopers and where to plant, how to plant, where, et cetera, where kinds of trees to plant, working with the Watershed Stewards Academy on that. So I believe where we are right now is finalizing a memorandum of understanding between the city and the Watershed Stewards Academy for the program, and then we can move forward with it in spring. So Racine will be meeting with WSA and the city arborist on Friday to get that moving. So those are some of the bigger things we're working on right now. Of course, Racine continues to do environmental reviews for our HUD funded properties, our low income properties. Hawkins Cove is moving along. An RFP should go out very, very soon for the Living Shoreline project there. It was delayed by the fact that there's an outfall that's embedded in the existing retaining wall there. And when it comes out, that may require more structural improvements than we originally anticipated. So that took a little while by Public Works to determine exactly what they were going to require in the RFP for the Living Shoreline. The good news on that, so that was originally a $65,000 grant to remove the eroding bulkhead, put in a living shoreline, make dock improvements, put in a kayak launch, make it accessible for kayaks and paddlers, other paddlers. What we originally received was $65,000 for that from the Chesapeake Bay Trust. But then a private donor, a man who lives in the area, Patrick Denker, through his family's foundation, the Denker Foundation, provided us an additional $65,000. So that helps immensely with some of the structural improvements we had to do there, because we found out it's going to be more expensive than originally anticipated. And it could allow us to do some more improvements on the shore that we thought would have to wait till a future grant. That also puts us in good stead with this trust to show that there's other money coming in and matching the project, which helps with our future grant applications to them for more work in Hawkins Cove. The dredging is still an issue there. I know the mayor really wants to dredge a channel up to the docks so that we could have a water taxi service, maybe subsidized by the city for people who live in the area to get downtown and to other areas. Dredging is something that the money comes through the Waterway Improvement Fund through DNR, but it's controlled by the county. The county has not been extremely cooperative in providing money to the city over the years. So we're working that angle right now. There is a meeting on Thursday, and I do need to catch up with that. Perhaps somebody on this in the commission knows more about the meeting in the county about dredging. I know that Lisa Arrowsmith, who's a paddler with a paddling organization, is trying to get people who live around Hawkins Cove to testify about the need to dredge there. I have to say, I just haven't been up to speed with that issue and what's going on Thursday. So if anyone can shed some light on that, that would be much appreciated. Does anyone know anything about that meeting on Thursday? No. Let's see. Tomorrow, I'm going to see if I can catch up with it, get some information out to you guys. If there is ability to testify, I'm going to see if the mayor wants me to go and do that. I need to get some more information on dredging costs, though. So those are the highlights for now. You, Randy?
Cool. Okay. Anybody have any thoughts to chime in with Jackie on that? I know a couple of things I heard that was really neat. Yeah, so I made a note here, something you said, but I said I was thinking that you should, to get you some help, you could get you need to let Chesapeake Research Consortium give you some interns. It would be really cool to get one from the Public Works division that could maybe work with you in conjunction with Public Works. I think that would take a little bit of tasks off of you and put it in kind of public works office, but doing your type of divisions.
Yeah, funny you said that. I just yesterday or the day before racing, I was talking to Racine about, let's think about ways we can use interns. Now, I've worked with a lot of interns. I've had 5 or 6 of them working for me at a time in other capacities. Interns are a lot of work. So they have to be very good interns. And I like giving young people new opportunities, but they have to be, when you're working with limited time, they have to be very useful to you and be strong, independent workers. So I need to identify very discrete tasks for them to do. It's nice to bring them in. It's a good thought, but we have to have very particular projects.
Cool. All right, go ahead, Bevan, and then Allison.
If the city could possibly identify maybe some of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act funding. I mean, there's billions of dollars coming through that do some of the Hawkins Cove restoration and some of the other environmental restorations. I know there's also some FEMA money that go towards parks if they're used for flooding and things like that. So there's a lot of money flowing, and if we had a resilience plan, that would be really good to have that up and going, because that's, you can use that to get some of those federal funds.
Right, and that's one of the things that's my high priority. I just spoke to the city manager about. We need that resilience plan, as you mentioned, for just that. We need one anyway, but we need it as a guiding kind of tool. But we need it for grants and for funding issues. And right now, I am pulled every direction. Every day changes, and you never know what's going to happen. You have the best laid plans, and I told David Gerald that I have 5 or 6 projects that must be done that I consider very high priority, but the current structure of how we're staffed does not allow that to happen. So that's why we're trying to get more staff to work with me on these issues. Yeah, so I completely agree with you. It's my highest priority, the resilience plan. Oh, and some of you may be, I know, Bevan, you were recruited for the MER. We have a military installation resilience review that we're doing right now with our contractor is Stantec. And this is a grant-funded project through the Department of Defense. And how we got that was because it's all about military installation readiness, the military installation being the academy. But also it is about military installations that adjoin other private property, in this case, the city of Annapolis and Anne Arundel County. So we're looking at not only just climate change impacts that impact their readiness, but especially how transportation routes are affected and evacuation routes, but other infrastructure that is vulnerable due to climate change. And it all ties back to the academy, but because the academy's within city limits, that works out really well for the city when we do a grant study like this. So we did send out a survey. Some of you, I believe, were on the list of people the survey went out to. And I know that Bevan's been tapped to be on the work group for the environmental work group. We have a transportation work group and an environmental work group, and then we have a policy and a technical committee. And I am the project lead for the city on this project. And I'm the chair of both policy group and the environmental work group. But I'm wondering now, we tapped Bevan because she was the environmental commission chair, but she's no longer the chair. So I wonder if you need to add Randy in then, but would like to keep Bevan if you're willing because of your expertise.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so Randy, we did want to have the environmental chair as part of this work on the environmental work group.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. Sorry,
I'll send you the information, Randy. I need to update this list then with our contractor. Our kickoff meeting for the environmental work group is the 31st of January. Let's see, at 2 o'clock, 2 to 3:30. If you're able to join us for all of it or part of it.
Okay.
If not, there will be other environmental work group meetings, but I'll get you the information.
Okay, cool. Go ahead, Allison.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jackie, I thought I saw maybe on social media or somewhere else on Facebook, maybe you can remind me of the name of the initiative around Earth Day, Greenscape, Green. Is that happening again this year? And how can we help?
Yeah.
How can we help advertise that and get the word out?
Yeah, Racy and I were just talking about that. Racy, why don't you give everybody an update?
I'm trying to get my video back up.
That's okay, we can hear you.
Here we are. We are planning Earth Day and Greenscape. Greenscape is a city program that encourages planting and beautifying public areas, and usually has anywhere from 25 to 50 sort of teams of people that agree to plant. So we are going to include some information on pollinator gardens and making bird-friendly habitat. And I'm looking now for some pollinator-friendly seed packets to try to include in the Greenscape packet that would encourage people to plant for pollinators. Bird City, we are putting our banners up, or we're working right now to set up banners on Main Street for Earth Day and Bird City. We are also, I am currently trying to lock down a city school, whether it's Bates or a middle school or a grade, not preschool, but middle school or grade school, where students draw and or paint pictures of birds that they see, and to also help us to identify a bird that represents the city of Annapolis. And we're looking into maybe making it into some sort of a contest where we have something to offer the students that participate. So yeah, Bird City and Bee City is still moving forward.
So Greenscapes, what thing, last year Racine supplied Black-Eyed Susan packets, and we got those for free. Annapolis Green had a connection with somebody in the county that had a whole bunch of them. So that was nice. And the reason Black-Eyed Susan is the state flower, but also a great pollinator flower. And we actually had Adetola, who is our African-American liaison in the city. He had a neighborhood in Annapolis that there was a corner where they wanted to do the planting. And so we made sure that he got some packets so that he could do that with the neighborhood. It would be great if we could identify areas, groups that definitely want to use the pollinator seeds. So we knew they were actually being used, and especially it was like an area in Parole, community in Parole, or one in West Annapolis or in Eastport somewhere, where there's a plot of land where they could do that, whether it's a park and they get city permission, or it's someone's front yard or a sidewalk area where they could do planting. For example, Annapolis Green, when you're obtaining city permission to do a whole landscape in the sidewalk area, in the green space in front of their building. And that it was a pollinator garden is what they did there. And they actually got we have a pollinator certification. The city gets out a little sign that gets erected. So when people do that. So if there are areas in any of your communities, or you get people together that want, and it doesn't have to be the pollinator thing, anything with Greenscapes, because they give out the plants and the materials during Greenscapes, that would be great. And also, seems like some people are very clued into Greenscapes, Allison, but other people are not. So if you guys have ideas about how to push out the program, that would be appreciated. But we don't do that in the city manager's office or in our former department. It's through Rec and Parks.
Who was the point of contact for Greenscape?
Marissa Whitlinger, and Racine can send you her email, her contact information.
Yeah, yeah. Just let me know if you need her contact, and I'll
Why don't
send
you
that
send
to
it to
her.
this group, Racine?
Okay, I can do
Yeah.
that.
So are they just like a outside group that's just doing this like a nonprofit or what?
No, they work for the city. They
Okay,
work
gotcha.
for Rec and Parks.
Gotcha.
It's Marissa Whitlinger, and she works for Rec and Parks, and she does this every year. And Greenscape is usually in the spring and in the fall. And
What week?
So
What week is it this
every
year,
year.
Racine? Do you know what
What's
week
that?
it is? Do you know what day it is?
It's Saturday, April 23rd, which is the day after April 22nd, which is Earth Day.
Yeah, I remember last year I was a part of the environmental brown bag lunch thing with Mr. Gallagher and Rob and the mayor. So I would love to do something like that again, maybe more geared towards environmental justice. And we did the launch of Replant Annapolis at the Robinwood community, planted three trees there.
Well, it'd be nice to get them involved with both Replant Annapolis, some of the Hackney communities, and with Greenscapes.
Yeah, well, that's a good segue right into the next thing, which is our DEIJ report. So just,
I apologize. I just have one more thing to report on from the city. The city has a pilot program with Hunt Meadows community for composting. And we also have a pilot program through working with Annapolis Green with composting over at Truxton Park. So we're working through both pilot programs and hoping that they move forward to something more permanent throughout the city.
Yeah, and so this started in October, and both programs run through March. One is a program through Department of Public Works, the curbside pickup in Hunt Meadow, and we'll be gathering data from that to justify potentially building a composting center for the city. And the other one is a grant from Keep America Beautiful to Annapolis Green, and the city partnered with Annapolis Green to provide them the site in Truxton Park. It's a drop-off food scrap site. One thing that Public Works is going to do is send out a survey, not only to the Hunt Meadows people who are participating, others are not, to see what their interest is in continuing curbside pickup, but it sends a citywide survey to assess interest from the residents about composting in general. Would you prefer a drop-off location, curbside pickup? What would you pay? Right now, Annapolis Compost, who is our contractor for Hunt Meadows, charges $29 a month. Through the pilot program, it's free. So there's an incentive to people to participate. But normally they charge $29 a month, which is pretty low. They may raise it to $30, $32 because of the increase in gas prices. But they're also using an e-bike now for their pickups in Hunt Meadow and downtown. So you will see that coming, and make sure you respond to that and tell people about it, to respond to the survey, because it will help determine whether the city goes forward with citywide composting.
Okay, great information. Thank you for that. Was there anything else there? If not, we have about 20 more minutes left. Did anybody have any more thoughts or comments there? All right, cool. So just the DIJ report, I'll keep it very short. I would like to maybe talk maybe next meeting about a follow-up to the memo for the environmental justice memo, and kind of talk about ways we can continue that conversation with them. Also, just promoting some jobs in the industry. There's some quite a few jobs out there right now that I'm sharing. One is for equity and inclusion person with working for the Alliance, and a few other positions. I'm also promoting the Chesapeake Conservation Corps program, which I'm hiring, submitting 5 applicants for that program that are from diverse backgrounds or also people of color, as well as being 18 to 25 years old. And it's a great program. You know, it's good for people that maybe were coming right out of high school that not sure what they want to do with their career. It's a quick way to get a $25,000 start for their career or life at 18 years old or a little older. So I'm doing some promoting for that as well. Also, community mini grant for Chesapeake Bay Trust. I'm submitting 3 mini grants for $5,000 for nonprofits that are owned and operated and service people of color, and in the Annapolis-Santa Ana County region. So if you know of any that are interested, please send them my way. Those 3 projects ended up sparking the interest of Chesapeake Bay Trust to share with me about a program that I had kind of been influencing and encouraging, which is the urban tree planting program, which is they have 500,000 trees that are needing to be planted, but they all have to be planted in public housing communities. So I've been going around and kind of creating a coalition of nonprofit organizations of color that service public housing communities that to get letters of support from the city mayor and HACA to say that they're in support of that. And also city forester, who I talked to earlier this week, who also agreed to participate in a letter of support draft that he would sign that basically would also say that he'd be also willing to work with individual organizations submitting grants for this urban tree planting program. And it's up to $1 million that you can ask for. And that would be the max, which would be 2,000 to 6,000 trees. And then it just kind of decreases from there down to about 15,000, I think. So that's another development.
I spoke with BG&E recently. I was trying to get grants for the city from BG&E. They have all these different green grants. I can forward to you the contact person, because the city doesn't qualify for any of them because we're not a 501c3, first of all. And I know that group you were talking to was talking about how to organize and perhaps be a 501c3.
No, I'm saying I'm correlating a coalition of groups.
Right. I know I was in some of those discussions last summer, but and I said the city couldn't lead that effort, but you know, we would help or partner with a group that might form. But BG&E has green jobs, green communities grants that they give out. And I will send you the contact person for the green grants through BG&E. And but one of their, I believe one of their requirements was that you had to be a nonprofit.
Okay.
Or some, yeah. So I know that group had talked loosely about maybe forming formally into some sort of nonprofit, but you'd have to speak further with BG&E about the requirements.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. And yeah, thank you. Yep, that'll work perfectly. What was I about to say? So yeah, just working those, you know, that's the DEIJ report, pretty much just trying to coordinate different funding resources and funding projects that can help and direct and influence or assist or increase the quality of life for some of our underrepresented and underengaged populations and environmental isms. So I'm also working with Monarch Academy, who has agreed to do a tree planting project at their school with accompany some type of book reading for the read-along, monthly read-alongs that they do, read-along activity. So it's another fun activity. Also working with Vince Leggett on some things in regards to his current production of the PBS production, which was about collection of digitization and collection of research on African Americans' influence or life along the Chesapeake Bay. And so that's been pretty neat to watch and make the case for different leaders and legacy holders like Harriet Tubman, Frederick Douglass, and others, and how they were able to kind of use the environment to do what they were doing. What else? I would like to, maybe talk about doing some kind of workshop or webinar between now and spring that would speak to something that the commission could, give influence or help ideas on, that would be for maybe some of the city managers and council, similar to what I guess Rob was mentioning earlier about different input, but I guess this would kind of have a DEIJ focus. Maybe we could bring on the Diversity Action Work Group for the EPA to partner with something like that. But this is something that I had the idea for. And that's pretty much it from the DEIJ scope. Anybody have any thoughts or comments on that section? All right, cool. So moving right along on the agenda, looks like from there we wanted to discuss some of the commission's priorities for 2022. And I'm going to let Bevan, if she's still here, kick off that discussion. She's still on here. But basically, we have the old 2021 priorities on.
Yeah, I was going to see if somebody pull up that doc and share that document.
Yeah.
I just sent it. I know Racine sent it to us, and I just sent it back to you all. So if somebody could share the screen with that doc.
Okay.
That would be helpful. Yeah.
Randy, I have it up if you want me to share the screen.
Sure.
Yeah, and I just want to point out that one of our existing priorities on there was a better enforcement of pollution from stormwater. Well, pollution from stormwater runoff and waste, and it was better enforcement from the city too. Where is that? Stricter enforcement of existing stormwater laws was number 3 on that. So I think that's still one of the priorities.
Bevan, do I have the right one open up here? This one it's like it might be older.
It was January. That's a February one, 2018. Yeah, I had it as January 2021. So that should be the second attachment in the email that I sent. Because we did do some updating to that.
And while she's pulling that up, we have about 10 minutes left. And so Bevan, if it's okay with everyone, you can we can spend the last 10 minutes on this.
Yeah, right. Some of these we've already done, the interim greenway plan and getting that in the comprehensive plan. I'm pretty sure that has already been baked in the comprehensive plan, or that's the last I heard. Anyway, some of these were strengthening environmental review of development projects, greater sign-up authority for the Office of Environmental Policy. We don't have that office anymore, but that might be good to confer with Jackie and see what kind of influence she has and her position has on development projects. I mean, it seems like, she does have a lot, but I'm not sure formally what she formally has in city code, but it does seem like her position has been strengthened. I think we don't have any DEIJ goals in here. So I think there's some room for that. I just open it up this is the commission's priorities list. So
So yeah, I think maybe is there a deadline that we want to have something by? And also, how do you go? How did you previously go about? I guess.
Well, we just kind of all brainstormed what all the issues that we knew about, and then we kind of made them into short-term things that we thought could get addressed quickly, in the first year. And I guess we put this together at the beginning of Gavin's first term, and then we revised it in 2020. And so I think they want us to make a new one because it's the beginning of his second term. So I would look for, what like the things that are 4-year projects and then, 1-year projects too. So we just kind of did a brainstorm of all the issues we all knew about. Gotcha. And some of these are still existing. Some of these, seem to be addressed already. So,
so would this be revisions or would it would just be adding to or just revisions? Not
I think you could add to it and then take out the things that we've already done. Like I think the Greenway plan, I think that's already getting baked into the comp plan. Some things here, environmental review of development projects, stricter enforcement of existing stormwater laws. And I know Jackie said that the city's wants to even look at having stricter laws and for the stormwater requirements. So that's maybe something to add into there. I just open up and see what else people have come up with.
I know one idea that I had from I think our last discussion, which was the possibility or the thought, maybe we can talk about it, but some type of relationship where the city would, once they would have approved a developer to do any kind of major construction or project, that person could then get some kind of communication from maybe us or some other group that would identify different community groups and kind of, communities of practice, and that maybe there could be some type of an introduction where they can open up for a question in some type of live webinar platform. And then maybe that could also assist with making sure that these developers have a understanding for what the local community wants and needs are and what their thoughts or issues are. So that way it could kind of serve as an intermediate to making sure that things may not get as off track as possible.
Right. Manage expectations at the outset. And Jackie, I think, is there a requirement that developers meet with the local community? And if there is, I mean, it might be good, like Randy said, to add the AEC into those meetings as well.
Go ahead, Leah.
I'm sorry. Well, I think that Mike Johnson spoke to that a bit at our last meeting, that he would welcome our feedback on that component of updating the sediment and erosion controls and the sort of process and all of the work that he and Jackie and others are doing right now. So I think that there are some concrete things like that we could identify in these priorities, like giving specific feedback on that, working, Jackie said about like some of the resilience of the permitting process, working with Jackie on the resilience plan. Like, I think earlier in this meeting, we've identified some things that are coming up this year that we could weigh in on. So I would encourage us to add this to the list.
You could, if you want to codify what we're doing for Crystal Springs, and I'll give you the example. So there's not a requirement to meet with the public right now, but if you wanted to put that in there, that's something you could do. I think things are going to go much more smoothly and be more transparent at Crystal Springs because the developers agreed that they will meet pre-construction with the community, hold a community meeting, and then every 6 weeks during the sediment and an erosion process where they're grading and doing that, moving things around, they'll meet with the public every 6 weeks. And then once everything's closed up and they're actually into the building phase, they will meet every quarter with the community. So that was done by agreement. It will be a permit condition because the developer agreed to do it, but we don't have something like that in the code with any sort of frequency of meetings or even a requirement to meet with the public. And that developer, property owner, which is National Lutheran, they are also setting up a hotline for community members to call into with questions, concerns, complaints, submit photographs, video, etc. So that goes directly to the contractor. I think that those are improvements in the process that will help a lot with that development, which was also already a much more controversial even than Parkside Preserve.
It sounds like a much different approach from the developer than the project we were discussing earlier tonight.
Very different developer.
All right, cool. So next steps, right? So we have a deadline. We know what what the goal is here. So I would say maybe we could open this up for a window of time. And where would these comments or recommendations or ideas be shared to? Myself?
Oh, we usually share them with the city council and the mayor, and we just say,
I mean within the commission, people's feedback.
Right. Okay.
Where would that come
Like
to me or Alice or Ann or Allison?
We just all do it on the Google
You want
Doc.
to start a 2022 Google Drive folder and then put a new document in there that we can all work on?
Cool, that sounds good. And the next meeting, we can plan to discuss whatever people have submitted into it, maybe.
That sounds great. Thanks to both.
All right, cool. Yeah, I think that's enough time maybe between now and then to give some good feedback or thoughts. Even if you don't have a direct bullet point to add, I think that, maybe you could write why you don't. Maybe make explain why you feel like nothing needs to be added. And if you do have an addition, maybe explain why you want to add it. So not just a tagline, but also maybe a little brief explanation. All right. Anyone have anything else, Bevan?
Well, I would just say with that priorities thing, I would get the more specific you can be, the better. And then in our other priorities doc, when we did it at the beginning of Gavin's first administration, we identified, which department needs to move with it, or which department should, if it was across departments, and what the cost would be, or it was revenue neutral, things like that. If it took legislation to do it, or if it took just policy by the city, so that just helped the city just kind of jump on things and move things quickly.
Good point. And I'm sure you will give me some feedback on how to transition that right on through here. Yes. But that's a great plan and strategy for going forward. All right, so it's 8:30. I think we have covered all the agenda topics. I think I saw somebody laugh throughout the day here. Some chuckles. Good to see my man Jeremy, although I see him some days at work and in our meetings. So that's also good to see him on the evening time.
Brandy, I think you did an awesome job chairing this first meeting of yours. And Bevan, I'm going to miss working with you. Are we going to still see you around?
Yeah, I'll probably pop in and ad hoc, be involved ad hoc basis. But yeah, thanks, Racine. Great working with you all too for many years. And when we do get together, we'll have to invite Tammy and everybody else who left during COVID too.
Yeah, let's have a party. Yeah. We'll figure it out,
Or come out and do planting or something.
Hey, we can have a campfire. Yeah, a campfire, a little bonfire, something like that. with something, you know. I think
So,
that-
I guess I would suggest that, we've got, 2 vacancies right now on, the commission, and with, Bevan leaving, that's gonna be 3. So any suggestions you have, I guess any questions, Hillary is the number 1 person, but you can, follow up with me and I'll follow up with Hillary, and let's, try to, staff this commission.
All right. Cool. All right. Well, without further ado, thank you all for your time and your expertise this wonderful evening. This is our January 2022 kickoff meeting, and I feel like it's off to a great start. And it's been an honor and a pleasure, Bevan. And we still will look to feel your shadow in the midst of the clouds, you know, still making calls and pushing buttons. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. All right.
Right, Bevan,
Yeah.
take care of yourself.
Okay, thanks. You too.
Bevan, I told the mayor he is not rid of you.
Oh, right. Don't get too comfortable, right?
Exactly.
So does anybody vote to adjourn the meeting? Is that how it works?
Sure. I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Bevan,
The drum.
So,
second.
all right. Thank you. Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right.